So, we've done a video on my collection of DS and 3DS games, a video on my collection of Wii U games, physical ones that is, and yes, even my Sega Genesis collection. So today I figured I might as well do a video that's been a long time coming, my collection of Nintendo Switch games. The Switch is probably one of my favorite game systems and easily the best console Nintendo has come out with in a while, and as a result of that I've been collecting quite a few games for it, 24 as of the recording of this video. So let's go through them while I silently pray that this stack here doesn't fall over and all over the floor. So starting off at the launch of the Switch, we have The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. I'll probably have to update my top 10 Mario games list at some point, because this one is going to be on there for sure. And then we have Octopath Traveler. I think with this game you're going to start seeing a running theme with a good portion of my collection. Then we have Mega Man 11, the first main series Mega Man game in a number of years. This one's alright. Then we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I actually got this one along with my Switch when I got the system for my 17th birthday. Then we have Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition. This is the first of several ports that I own for the system, and this one in particular originally came out for the Xbox 360. Speaking of which, we next have Final Fantasy IX. Yes, this actually did get a physical release, and as far as I'm aware, it might be one of the only Switch games that comes in a horizontal box like this. It is an international release, as you could probably tell by the lack of an ESRB rating, so the only way that you're going to get a copy of this is through an independently run game store. Then we have Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster. Unfortunately, this is not the version that has X-2 on the cartridge, it's the one that comes with the voucher, which you use to download X-2. I had to get a micro SD card for my Switch so that I could download it because there wasn't any space for it. So yeah, do keep that in mind if you plan on buying this game in particular. Then we have Collection of Mana. This is a collection of the first 3 games in the Mana series, Final Fantasy Adventure, Secret of Mana, and Trials of Mana. This is the only way that you can play the original version of Trials of Mana, actually. Though, there is another way that you can play the game, just not the original. You'll see in a sec. Next we have Super Mario Maker 2. I remember not hearing anything about this game despite being pretty on the ball when it comes to upcoming Nintendo releases. So imagine my surprise when I walk into GameStop one day and find out that a new Mario Maker game just released a few days ago. Naturally, I picked it up on the spot, and while it is better in a lot of ways than its predecessor, I do think that the removal of Amiibo support was definitely a big downside. Then we have Dragon Quest Builders 2. As you'll notice, this one is a makeshift cover art because when I went looking for this game, I couldn't find it and ended up having to buy it used at a pawn shop, and unfortunately they only had the cartridge, so I had to find an empty case and print out this makeshift cover because unfortunately there's also no scans of the cover for this game. Next we have Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 Collection. As you may notice, this one has Japanese, at least I think it's Japanese on the case. Interestingly enough though, the cartridge itself is in English, and the games of course play in English. It's just I also bought this one used, and this Japanese case was the only one that they had left. Then we have quite possibly my favorite game on the Nintendo Switch, Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age. Or should I say Echoes of an Elusive Age S Definitive Edition. If you haven't played this game yet, it's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of role-playing games. and it's a good starting point for the Dragon Quest series as well. Next we have Luigi's Mansion 3, which, fun fact, released on Halloween of 2019. This one I don't like quite as much as the original game, but I do think it is slightly better than its predecessor, Dark Moon. Then we have Trials of Mana, the 3D remake that came out in 2020. Yeah, this one's pretty good, and for a brief while this was the only way that you could play this game, though eventually Collection of Mana would release here in North America. But yeah. Next we have Paper Mario the Origami King. This is one of only 2 games that I've played on launch day, the other being Super Smash Bros. For 3DS, and it's the only game that I've ever pre-ordered. Or, well, really, I didn't pre-order it, someone else pre-ordered it for me on my behalf as a birthday present. But, yeah. Next we have Bravely Default 2. And Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This is Kirby's first foray into 3D platforming, and it's a lot of fun. Definitely worth checking out. And if not for one other game that you'll see in a second, this would have been my game of the year for 2022. Next we have yet another PS1 port, Chrono Cross The Radical Dreamers Edition. Not only does this include an HD remaster of Chrono Cross for the PS1, it also includes Radical Dreamers, which I believe released only on the Satellaview, an add-on for the Super Famicom in Japan, and it's described as what we now know, what we now refer to as a visual novel, if you could even call that a game. Then we have Live Alive. Now this was my game of the year 2022. It's a remake of a 1994 Super Nintendo RPG that we unfortunately never got because it was a Japan exclusive, but it has a similar visual style to Octopath Traveler, that is to say HD 2D, where you've got the 16-bit sprites but with a 3D background. Yeah, one of the more unique RPGs that you can play on the Switch, and definitely worth checking out if you're into old school role-playing games. Then we have Dragon Quest Treasures. This is a spin-off which features Eric and his younger sister Mia in a little action-adventure game. This one's a bit slower paced and not quite as intense as some of the other action RPGs that are available on the Switch, but it's definitely worth checking out if you're a Dragon Quest fan. Then we have Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. I unfortunately never got to play the original on the Wii, so when I found out that a remaster was coming out, I decided to pick that up instead. About a week or so after its release, I traded in a couple of games and managed to get this for free, essentially, or with trade credit, really. But yeah, the art style is great, and if you haven't played the original, this is a pretty solid way to play it. Then we have Octopath Traveler 2. Yeah, I got this one for my birthday earlier this year. And finally, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. This is the latest addition to my collection and also the latest release on the Switch. And I've been having a lot of fun with it lately. Definitely the best 2D Mario to come out in a number of years, though I still prefer Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy. So yeah, that's my Switch collection. 24 games in all, and yeah, lots of different games here, mostly RPGs if you couldn't tell. But I do plan on looking out for a few more games, mainly the remake of Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, as well as the remake of Star Ocean The Second Story, and maybe a few others along the way. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. I will see you later.